acronym SUV, Sports Utility Vehicle. It's really lost its meaning over the years, hasn't it? Nowadays, anything which is slightly higher and bigger than a hatchback is classed as an SUV. I've actually done that in the past. I've called crossovers SUVs. They all just kind of blend into this whole genre. But that isn't the case. Sports Utility Vehicle stands for exactly that. It's a sporty utilitarian vehicle, and there's not many that exist nowadays. But this is one of them. This is the Volkswagen Touareg, and it's Volkswagen's flagship, most expensive vehicle. You guys know I've been working my way through the current Volkswagen range, so I thought it's about time I put the biggest brother to the test. Hi guys, I'm Tish, and welcome back to my channel, Auto Social UK. In today's video, I'm going to be finding out whether the Volkswagen Touareg is really worth the very expensive price tag. So if that sounds good, then please keep watching. And if you like new car reviews and car content, then go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Now, some of you may know that I worked at Volkswagen in sales for about 2 years. And in that time, I didn't sell a single new Touareg. Now, mostly because I was a terrible salesperson, but also because this is a lot of money to spend on a vehicle like this. Many people that have 60, 70, 80, if you put on all the extras on a car, are going to spend it on an Audi or a BMW or probably some kind of Land Rover, Range Rover product. But I really applaud the people that choose the Touareg because it's a little bit different. It's a little bit more understated. And I actually think it looks brilliant. Somebody messaged me when I put this on my Instagram, saying that that's the best looking Volkswagen that they've created. And I care to agree. It's really a very good looking car. The only thing I'm a little bit disappointed about is it used to stand out a lot in the range. Nowadays, I think at a first glance, it does just look like a Tiguan. There's not that much that stands it aside from its smaller baby brother. But in terms of styling, this is the black edition. So you get this crisscrossy gloss black bumper at the bottom there, and then you've got these slats along the middle of the vehicle, and the middle one is actually lit up. So this is a light bar. The Touareg was one of the first vehicles to actually feature a light bar on the Volkswagen range. Of course, nowadays, a few more models have also joined it in having that light bar. I like that. It gives it a premium touch. I really wish we did get the light up badge on the front of this vehicle, but for the UK, that hadn't yet been made legal. But of course, we are starting to see light up badges. Finally, they passed the legislations in Europe, and things like the Golf are going to have a lit up badge. But maybe on the Touareg, because this is a premium product, I do think it'd be a little bit too flingy for this target audience. So that's probably just as well. We all know that I can be a little bit tacky. Now, because this is the sportier Black Edition model, it rides on some 21-inch alloy wheels. These are quite large wheels. They do actually, I think, go up to 22s, which I personally think that's probably on the R would be a bit much. These are a little bit firm in themselves, but this does have a firmer ride setup, and I'll talk about the ride and handling a little bit later on. But what do you think about the styling? I really quite like it, but then we know that I like Volkswagens, and I know that a lot of you are not too keen. So let me know, what do you think of the styling in the Touareg down below? And in the meantime, let's check out the interior. Of course, it's not something that I need to tell you guys, but for those that may not know, this Touareg sits on the same platform as a lot of premium Volkswagen products. We're talking Audi Q7 and right at the top, the Bentley Bentayga. So compare this to the interior of the Bentley Bentayga, it's not going to feel as luxurious. But I think this Touareg has received a bit of a hard time from the rest of the reviews that I've watched, with people saying that it doesn't feel all that premium on the interior. But I care to disagree. I think it's really nice in here. Perhaps it's just a touch too modern for Touareg tastes. The Touareg to me has always been very sophisticated. I think brown leather, and to be honest, I possibly think about what a lot of Skodas look like nowadays as to having in the Touareg, but this feels a bit more modern, and maybe it's become a bit disconnected from its target audience. But I, as a 31-year-old woman, Really, really like it. Yes, I did have to think about my age there for a second. I keep thinking I'm 32, but I'm not there quite yet. You've got a lot of gloss black, and I think perhaps maybe that's the issue. You've got this gloss black centre console, and you've got gloss black across this dashboard here, and you've also got gloss black on the steering wheel, which we'll talk about in a moment. What I will say is it perhaps hasn't got as much storage as you may first think. Now, up front here, you've got some wireless charging, a little bit of storage. You've got a USB-C charger and a 12-volt charger. And then moving down, we've got kind of 2.5 cup holders. You've got a cup holder in the middle there, which is perfect for a Red Bull can. You'll find this lovely gear selector. Now, I'm really, really glad they've kept this in the Touareg. They've not put it up on the steering wheel like they have in the Tiguan. This is still lovely because this, to me, feels kind of a lot nicer to use. It feels a little bit more engaging. Start stop button, start stop and keyless entry as standard. You've also got a few set of dials here. So you've got a ton of drive modes, which I'll talk about in a moment. But for now, I want to talk about this one on the left. Now, as I mentioned, this is a proper SUV, and that means that this vehicle can actually go off-road. Non-plug-in hybrid Touaregs come with air suspension, which is great for comfort, soaking up lumps and bumps with ease and allows you to increase the ride height for off-road driving, either manually or using the drive modes. It includes normal, comfort, off-road and special off-road driving modes. It's surprisingly impressive at off-roading, tackling far harder obstacles than you'd expect from something with comfy seats and a heated steering wheel. Now, the only slightly disappointing thing is possibly this armrest storage. It's much more shallow than you may expect. You have got 2 further USB-C charge points in there, but it's not really a practical space for families. I would have loved for that to have been cooled like you get on some Range Rover products. You do, however, get loads of space in this glove box. That's massive. And you've also got nice big door cards as well. Now, going back to design, one of my other favourite design features is this bit of brushed, almost like aluminium that runs along the centre. You've got ambient lighting underneath it, and then you've got this little bit of ambient lighting which just says Touareg, which lights up at night. I think that looks really nice. Apart from the dreaded school-run mums, towing and long-distance journeys aren't that unusual for Touareg owners, and that means it's still very important that there's still a diesel option on the table. Whilst all the world moves towards electrification, there are still vehicles like this that really do suit a diesel engine, and that's why there's 2 available for the Touareg. Well, it's one V6 tried and tested diesel, and then it comes in 2 power outputs. This is a very familiar engine that's being used in vehicles from the Volkswagen Group for years. But if you are a school-run mum, or if you're a company car driver and you would benefit from a lower BIC rate, then there are also plug-in hybrids and petrol versions. So there's something for everyone. In fact, the full engine lineup is as follows. The petrol is the most powerful non-hybrid with 340 horsepower, but its fuel economy suffers at 25.7 miles per gallon. The diesels make 231 and 286 horsepower, although they both return 34.4 miles per gallon on official tests. As well as the most cost-effective to those that can plug in at home, the hybrids are the most powerful options too, with 381 horsepower and 462 horsepower, the latter only being offered in the sportier R trim. All versions are, of course, 4-wheel drive, and because the Touareg range costs over £40,000, even if you go for the entry-level model, there is quite an expensive tax to pay. Every time I jump into a diesel vehicle, I'm reminded just how long it's been since I last drove one. Of course, on this channel, nowadays, the majority of what I drive is electric. And electric definitely has its benefit of having that quick power uptake. And you have to remind yourself that you need to drive a diesel very different because the uptake in power is much slower. And especially in this Touareg, if you're driving it in normal mode, it does take a little while to change those gears. As you put your foot down, it really hangs on to them. But if you swap it into sport in this nice, lovely dial, this will speed up the changing of your gears and it becomes a lot more engaging to drive. Sure, it may take just a short while getting used to a diesel, But once you do, you remember all of the benefits of these cars. And that's because you might not have that instant power and the kind of non-jerky gear changes, but you do have a ton of torque, and that's always going to be great for towing. And I'll talk a little bit about how much this vehicle can tow in a while, because I would say that's its party trick. If you're going to need a tow vehicle, then this is brilliant. But what about for the everyday driver? Well, popping it into sport, it really is an incredibly good car to drive. It doesn't feel its size on the road at all. It handles the road so well. It handles like it's on rails. It's really, really comfortable. But what I will say is you're very, very clearly in a bigger vehicle. This to me drives nothing like a Tiguan. Not even like, obviously it's not going to feel like a petrol Tiguan, but I wouldn't even think this would feel like a diesel Tiguan if they still had one. And that's because to me, this feels a bit more like driving a truck, something like the Ford Ranger. You've got the higher ride height and you really do feel a lot bigger on the road than you do in the smaller Volkswagen SUV products. And that's a good thing and a bad thing. I don't think it's quite as easy to drive as a Tiguan. It's not quite as enjoyable to drive as a Tiguan, but there's always going to be reasons why people buy trucks for everyday drivers. And that's because they like to have that commanding view of the road. And I guess they like to have that superiority over everyone else out there. And this really does give you that feeling. I always found it quite interesting that despite being the smaller product, it was the Tiguan that gained 7 seats in the all space. But I think the reason why they've always kept the Touareg as being 5 seats is it's all about travelling in luxury, and if you crammed extra seats in, it wouldn't feel like that. Now, the rear of this car is very practical because these seats can actually slide all the way forward, and that gives you so much boot space. I'll talk about that in a moment. It's vast, but it also means you can customize the area. You've got a pull-out armrest with cup holders, and again you've got somewhere to pop the Red Bull, but also this whole center console moves forward as well, so that means you've got some through loading and it's a really practical space. I also love the fact that the rear seat passengers have their own dedicated climate control section, so that's actually quad zone. I usually say tri-zone, but it's quad zone. So both of these passengers can have different temperatures, which feels quite special actually. You've got a little pop-out area here, which has got 2 USB-C charge points and a 12-volt charger. So really nice. You've also got these air vents as well, which feel pretty good too. So in the back here on long journeys, you're going to be so comfortable. As you can see, I've got loads of headroom. I've got loads of legroom. I don't really like these nets on the back of the seats, but they are practical because you've got kind of a cleanable area here on the backs of the seats. And middle seat passenger, it's nice and wide, so that's brilliant. But of course, you've got a little bit of a hump in the floor. I've got pretty small feet, they're size 4, but they fit behind there on the transmission tunnel. But even if I sat them either side, you're still going to have plenty of room for feet either side of me anyway. Just overall, I think this is a really nice rear of the car. As I mentioned, if it's boot space you're after, then the Touareg has it in bucket loads. So inside of this boot, you will find up to 810 litres. It's ginormous. You've also got this really practical load area, so it's literally at waist height, really easy to get items in and out. You also, as standard, get things like this scuff plate. You've also got 12-volt charging in the back as well. You've got loads of practical things like luggage hooks. You've got the rear seat handles, which will put down the rear seats. You also have an adjustable boot floor and even space for a spare wheel, which is not a given nowadays. The retractable parcel shelf can be adjusted in a few different ways, and this model even has the option of a deployable tow bar. The factory-fitted bar will set you back around £1,500, but it will also bring with it Trailer Assist, a very handy automatic parking aid, which works with the trailer attachment. As I mentioned, the Touareg is an extremely highly rated tow vehicle, and in the high-powered R model, it can tow up to 3.5 tonnes. I think it's clear that I've had a fantastic time with the Touareg, but there is a big issue, and that's the price. The updated Touareg range starts from £68,000, and that's for the lower-powered 3-litre TDI Black Edition. The R, however, rocks in at a colossal £80,000. You see, once upon a time, the Touareg fitted in a neat gap between mainstream SUVs from less aspirational manufacturers and the models from the premium elite. It doesn't any longer, you see. A Porsche Cayenne starts from £70,000 and the e-hybrid from £80,000. There's no denying the fact that the Volkswagen Touareg is a very expensive Volkswagen with some super tough competition even from its own family. But personally, I think the new styling, the interior quality and also just how capable this vehicle is makes it a fantastic option in this class of SUV, proper SUV. I really hope you have enjoyed this video today, guys. If you have, then go ahead and give it a big thumbs up. And if you want to see more videos like this, then you're in the right place. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And you know what? I'm going to go out on a whim. And I'm going to say, by the time this Touareg video has gone live, I finally hit 50,000 subscribers. You guys don't even know what 50,000 subscribers means to me. This is still a channel which is completely run all on my own. I do all of the filming, all of the editing, and all of the little promotion that I have time to do as well. So to have 50,000 people on board, it really does mean the world. So thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. And until next time, guys, see you later.